Hey guys. So I've got some bad news for everybody. I've been checking out my new knife so I could do this review video for y'all. And well, it turns out, I guess, size does matter. Dang it. Hey, official PoleArms disclaimer. I can neither confirm nor deny that sad, unfortunate discovery has anything to do with yours truly personally. Welcome back, guys. Welcome back to PoleArms. As usual, it is I, Doug, your friendly neighborhood pole, coming to you direct and in full living color from the glorious, spacious PoleArms Studios, aka my post-divorce 2-bedroom apartment. How the heck are you? Guys, today we are going to be talking about the SOG Instinct Mini, my new knife. But before we do, a little piece of business. Guys, if you're not already a subscriber, and if you have any interest in supporting, small fish, little guy YouTube channels like mine, like PoleArms, please, at the bottom corner of your screen, there's a little subscribe icon. Go ahead and click on that. And if at any time you like anything about this video, maybe you really like that little slice of masterclass acting before the title screen, or maybe you'll like something else you see in this video, go ahead and hit the like button for me below. Both of those things, and stay until the end of the video. Watch as many minutes of this video as possible. All those things together go a long way towards getting me to my end goal, which is to finally be able to monetize this channel. Okay, that's that. Business is done. So now let's go ahead and get into it. Well, there she is, folks, in all her minuscule glory, the SOG Instinct Mini. And Mini is a very appropriate name for this small knife. But is it too small? Well, you're going to have to stick around and watch the rest of the video to find out. Bwahaha, the power! But as you can see, I put a row of quarters up there for reference, and she's about $1.25 long. But if you're the kind of person that needs more accurate measurements, well, here we go. The overall length of the knife from tip to that little nubbin they put on there for a lanyard hole, 4 3/4 inches. The cutting edge of the blade is 1 15/16 inches, so just a 1/16 shy of 2 inches. The thickness at the handle, where they put these thin little G10 scales over top of the skeletonized tang, the width at that point is just barely 1/4 inch. Now, if we put the sheath on it, you're looking at an overall length from the tip of the sheath to the end, overall length of 5 3/8 inches. The sheath width at its widest part is 1.5 inches. The metal clip that comes with it on the back is 2 3/16 inches long. And the neck chain that comes with it is 14 1/4 inches. Okay, so now that we got the basic specs out of the way, let's go ahead and address that earlier question. Is it too small a knife? Well, I'm not going to make you wait till the end of the video. I'm going to go ahead and let you know right now that For me, for my purposes, and for my big old sausage finger having big hands, yes. The answer is yes. It is too small a knife for a lot of different reasons. And it's not just the knife itself. I also have a few issues with the sheath and the clip. But first things first, let's go ahead and go down the list of issues I have, specifically about this thing's minuscule size. Let's just go ahead and start at the top of the list and go down, and we'll start with the blade itself. Now, like I said, the cutting edge of the blade is just shy of 2 inches, and that's pretty standard for a neck knife this size, a small neck knife, a small last-ditch knife, or a small weapon retention knife, which is what I would be using this for. I would clip it on my belt and use it as a last-ditch effort if somebody was trying to get my gun or keep me from getting to my gun, or if I was in a seated position. I would have this on my belt, clipped to my belt in the abdominal region of my belt, so I could deploy this little knife, with my weak hand or my strong hand if necessary. But a knife like this, obviously comes with a clip so that you can put it on your belt, but it's also marketed as a neck knife, so they usually come with a chain or a piece of paracord so that you can wear it around your neck. So, in that category of knife, a 2-inch blade is pretty standard. The issue I have with this knife is that it all comes down to design. A small knife like this, for instance, the CRKT Minimalist that I just did a review video for. It's an equally small knife, an equally small blade, but it's designed in a way to where I can, with my big hands, I can actually hold that knife and use it for its intended purposes, my intended purposes, well. It's designed well. So it's designed in a way that compensates for the smallness of the knife. This knife doesn't do that. It's not designed in a way that compensates for its small size. It's designed in a way to try to make its small size work, but in my opinion, it fails because it doesn't work. So again, the cutting edge of the blade is just under 2 inches, but when you grab this thing by the finger grooves, you have to, it's not comfortable to bring your thumb way back onto the handle, onto the spine of the tang. You're forced to put your thumb up on the jimping that goes way out, halfway down the spine portion of the blade. So you're forced to bring your thumb way out there to get a relatively comfortable grip on this small knife. And if you're stabbing with this blade, your thumb is going to get in the way and keep that blade from continuing on in. I mean, look, my thumb is right here. So if I was to stab into something, my thumb would stop right there, and that blade would only sink in, that blade would only sink in that much. So you still have all this portion of the blade that's effectively not used. The other small knives like this, like the CRKT Minimalist, again, it's designed in a way where you can grip it and maximize the entirety of that little blade. I mean, that blade is small enough. You don't want to effectively cut that small blade in half and make it even smaller. And even if you switched over to an ice pick grip, you can see that the bottom of your hand is still, more than halfway down that spine. So if I was to stab anything, my hand is going to stop that blade from going in any further than right there. So you're not utilizing half of that teeny tiny blade. But then you go down to the grip, the handle, and the design issues just continue on down. The finger grooves are extremely shallow, and really the second and third finger grooves are more shallow than the first one. And the first one is too shallow, especially for my big fingers. I know I keep talking about the CRKT Minimalist, but that really was a great little knife. I really like that quite a bit. I just had an issue really with the sheath. That was the deal breaker for me for that knife. But the knife itself was designed incredibly well and really compensated very well for its small size. And a big part of that was the design of the finger grooves. They were deep finger grooves that fit on my big thick fingers all the way down. I could slide my fingers inside those finger grooves from the tip down to the base of my fingers very easily. And when I held on to that knife, for as small as it was, it felt very secure in my hands. This knife with these shallow finger grooves and the super thin, flat profile of the handle, those things combined, I just don't feel like I have a good purchase on this knife. My fingers just, they feel like they're barely in those grooves. And if I was to actually hit something with this knife, slice something or stab something with this knife, I'm not very confident that my fingers would stay in place and that I would be able to retain this knife. So the finger grooves, yeah, they need to be a lot deeper and probably a lot wider, a lot more spaced out. Put a little bit extra length on the overall length of the knife, extra length to the grip itself. Make those finger grooves just a little bit wider and definitely a lot deeper, and you might have something here. But also, as I just mentioned, the knife itself, the grip, the handle, is just too thin. There is no profile there. It's just completely flat. Those G10 scales they put on the skeletonized tang handle, I mean, they're barely there. They add some texture, and it is a pretty nice texture. It's not overly aggressive, but that really doesn't matter because there's no curve, there's no swell to help the knife fill up your hand, to fill up your palm. It's just completely flat, and you don't feel like you're really making good contact on both sides of that handle. So that, combined with the really shallow, not wide enough finger grooves, those things combined just make for a very small knife that doesn't feel secure in the hands. And that's dangerous. I mean, that's a potentially deadly design flaw if you're using this for self-defense and you actually use this knife and you lose hold of it because there's really nothing to strongly grip onto. Obviously that's a problem. I think this knife could have benefited greatly with some contoured, swelled G10 scales. Give that grip a little bit of roundness so it fills in your hand a little bit better. I think that would have gone very far in improving the just the feel of this knife, feeling that like it's more secure in your grip. Now they did give you a little lanyard hole, so you could run a small square knot braid like the CRKT Minimalist comes with. I actually just put one on my Ka-bar TDI Investigator, which is the last-ditch knife, weapon retention knife that I'm currently carrying, and I still have to do a review video on that knife. That is coming soon, so look for that. But there is a lanyard hole, so you could put a little square knot braid or a snake knot lanyard or something off the end to where you could, you know, wrap your fourth finger around that, you know, around that lanyard, around that braid, and get a little firmer grip. But like I said, I don't think that's going to be enough to make up for the design flaws and in the rest of the grip. Moving on to the sheath, it does come with a neck chain, and it's a ball link neck chain, which is a very good thing. A lot of these neck knives come with like a paracord lanyard, and that's really that's a big no-no, guys. It's just a safety issue. This little ball link chain, you can snap it very easily. You can break it very easily. So, you know, if somebody tries to choke you with the chain, if you're wearing it around your neck and it accidentally gets snagged on something, you're not going to choke yourself. A piece of 550 paracord, however, is not going to break. Somebody could easily grab that, choke you out with it, or if the sheath gets snagged on something while it's around your neck, you're not going to break that free. You're going to have to try to cut that paracord. So it's a good safety feature. It's definitely a pro that they put this neck chain on here instead of a piece of paracord. But they also provided a metal belt clip. And the great thing about this, and one of the reasons I purchased this knife to begin with, is because that clip is on a 360 detent, which means you can put a hex wrench in through this hole, and let's see if I can get it in the light here. And you can reach that little screw that's in there. You can loosen that up and rotate this clip on this 360 detent wheel. And it's on both sides, so you can switch which side you want to put the clip on. But as you can see, if I can get some light on this son of a gun, hopefully you can see that. There are 12 detent circles, so you can turn that clip in increments of 30 degrees. So that's very versatile. I like that you can customize the cant, you know, the angle that you're wearing the sheath on your belt. So I like that a lot. That's a big plus. But for me, the downside of the clip is just the length. You know, it's really great. I liked a lot that the sheath itself was only 1.5 inches wide, which is about the standard width of your average gun belt or tactical belt. But then, as you can see, this thin, kind of sharp metal clip extends, you know, almost 1 inch below that sheath. And like I said, I'm wearing this in the abdominal section of my belt. So that piece of metal is either going to be digging into my leg when I sit down, or if it's oriented like this, it's going to stick me in my gut when I sit down. So that's really kind of a deal breaker. It makes a potentially very comfortable, versatile sheath very uncomfortable. I just wore this knife around in the sheath on my belt. I just wore it around my apartment for a little while, and I couldn't orient. I couldn't change the angle of the cant, you know, the angle of the sheath to a comfortable point to where either the you know, the grip of the knife was sticking me in the gut, or that metal clip, and no matter how I oriented it, that clip was either sticking me in my leg or in my gut when I sat down. So for me and my purposes, just not a comfortable sheath. It really makes wearing this thing on my belt in the abdominal region just very uncomfortable, and it's just not going to happen for me. Now, the huge positive of this sheath is right here, guys. Right here, guys. You see that? You see how that first finger groove is completely exposed, how it's not covered by any of the sheath material? That is huge. So when I need to deploy this knife, I can put my finger all the way in that groove. I can get a complete full combat grip on this knife and deploy it. And when it's deployed, it's ready to go. I don't have to try to readjust my grip or anything like that. That is huge. This is the third knife in this category that I have purchased and tested. Okay, I have this one. I tried the CRKT Minimalist, which I've discussed already. And I also bought the Ka-bar TDI Investigator, which is the one that I am currently wearing. And out of those three, this is the only sheath that doesn't cover a portion of the first finger groove. All the other sheaths, the sheath material comes out and covers at least half of that finger groove, which keeps you from getting a full combat grip on the knife, which forces you to do one of two things. Either leave it the way it is, not get a full combat grip on the knife, and if you need it in a self-defense situation, deploy it and then waste time readjusting, possibly losing control of the blade, or you get your Dremel tool out and you cut away, grind away enough of that material to fully expose that first groove. Now that's what I had to do with my Ka-bar TDI Investigator sheath. Okay, I was able to, there was enough material to where I could Dremel away that groove and make that first finger groove fully exposed so I could get a full combat grip on the knife without, and this is the key, without losing the retention of the sheath. Okay, now the CRKT Minimalist, I had to send that knife back, not because the knife wasn't great, I love that knife, but because the sheath had that design flaw where the material of the sheath came out and covered halfway that first finger groove, and there was no way for me to Dremel enough material away without cutting into the only retention point of that sheath. So if I exposed the first finger groove on that knife, I would have completely ruined the retention properties of that sheath. So it's a deal breaker. So that is huge. A huge plus for me is that this sheath is designed in a way where it effectively retains that knife without covering up any of that first finger groove, so that if I need to deploy this knife, I can get my finger all the way in, I can get a full combat grip and deploy the blade. Big plus. Another positive of this sheath is that it has a number of features that will aid you in lashing this sheath using microcord to a backpack, chest rig, anything with molly strap, things like that. You have a series of grommets all the way around, as well as a series of open slots all the way around. And then the outer perimeter of the sheath, it's covered in these rounded sawtooth ridges. All these things will aid you in using microcord to lash this sheath to whatever you want to lash it to. These grommets are much too small for any kind of standard paracord. Even 275 cord is too big for these openings. You really need to go down all the way to honest to goodness microcord to fit through those grommets and to really take advantage of those sawtooth grooves. So there you have it, guys, the SOG Instinct Mini. Is it too many? Well, for me, the answer is a big, giant yes. Go ahead and check out some of my other videos. Don't forget to subscribe and like, and I will see you next time.